With new episodes every week, join us as we peel the onion on the fascinating world of PKI and digital ID.
Hello and welcome to Root Causes, the PKI and Security podcast where a pair of industry veterans talk about all matters digital certificates and PKI. I'm Tim Callan, Chief Experience Officer at Sectigo, and I'm here with Jason Sirocco, Senior Fellow at Sectigo. So Jason, we are doing 2024 lookbacks, and one of the things that was a big year for us was quality guests.
Geez, I'll be so bold. This is called tooting your horn. And if you weren't listening to our podcast, especially to some of our guest podcasts, you really, really missed out on some important things that were said this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we had a couple cool things. One is it was the year of real experts, like best in the world at what they know kind of experts. And the second thing was it was a year of repeat guests, people who had enough to say that they came back 2, 3, 4 times to really, really share their thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, when we're preparing with some of these guests, what we end up discovering just in very short amount of preparation is that there's a story arc that will not fit into a 10, 15, 20-minute podcast.
Yeah.
And it's great that we split them up. But one of the reasons we wanted to we decided to look back on them was to kind of tell the whole story arc of what the guests were telling us.
Yeah.
And, maybe without any order to this, let's talk about one of the big things that happened this year in the PQC world. We had Dr. Dustin Moody on.
Dustin Moody.
Not, my goodness. The guy.
I'm still amazed we got Dustin Moody on.
Well, it was so cool. And he's a great guy, so smart, and able to articulate himself really, really well. And he taught us so much about what's going on at NIST. Mm-hmm. And Tim, recap some of what he said.
Well, he went over how the whole thing started, and the early days of just getting people to recognize that this really had to happen. And one of the things I found fascinating was, Dustin talking about, look, we'd never done this before. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how much uptake there would be. And then to be very pleased that a whole lot of people sat up and took notice. And, the other thing that really came away, I think, and he told us about where they are, where they're going. We heard about the round 3 results. We heard about round 4, which is still ongoing. We heard about the on-ramp, which is kind of around 5. Probably call it round 5. That's still going. And part of what we took away from that I took away from that conversation is there isn't really an end in sight. Right? You should think of this as the new normal, that we will probably forever be seeking and creating new cryptographic approaches and challenging the ones we have. And we should just expect to live in a world of agile, evolving, changeable cryptography in recognition of the fact that what we do have could be fundamentally challenged or defeated at any time.
Multi-decades of the same 1 or 2 cryptographic algorithms.
Yeah.
You'll never see that again.
Never again. Right. And so some of this is us synthesizing what Dustin said, but I really think that was the core of part of what we took from him, is just expect this to be life from now on. That's a very important revelation.
That is almost a perfect way to segue into Boss Westerbaum from Cloudflare, who Boss taught us a number of things, if you really listened. We celebrated with him Cloudflare's achievements, that he was instrumental in key exchange. A very large chunk of the human internet going through their traffic is on post-quantum cryptographic algorithms. Amazing. That was a great big celebration.
Well, and from a productization perspective, I would contend that Cloudflare is the most advanced company in the world. In terms of actually using it and implementing it, they've done more earlier and have more experience and more knowledge than any other company.
And they took the risk.
Oh, yeah.
They took the risk, which is rare amongst a lot of tech companies, especially ones that are so fundamentally important to infrastructure and the internet. Yeah. But, there's an episode that I think we already recapped it, but I'll do a quick recap here. Boss, it's so funny how when he was first talking to us, he was like, all these new cryptographic algorithms, they're really difficult. They're really, of course. And then at the end of the podcast, he changed his tune because he's like, well, I don't want to make anybody feel bad because they're, he's such a nice guy.
I think the quote was, they're all terrible.
They're all terrible.
Yes.
Here's what he really meant.
Right.
My goodness. Even some of the better cryptographic algorithms that are out there have very large signature sizes.
Yeah. A big thing that I learned from Boss Vesterbond, and I first learned this before he came to the podcast, which is part of why we invited him, was that every single viable PQC candidate that we have ever had does not work with our existing infrastructure. Every single one, without exception, requires massive retooling.
Take what you just said, and now let's talk about the next guest who really described that, which was Bruno Couillard.
Bruno Couillard, I think our winner for most repeats, and I'm sure we're going to see more because I think we love him and he loves us. So I think we'll see more of all of these people. I want them all back. Guys, we want you all back. But go on.
So Bruno, he actually did, as you say, a few episodes. But what I wanted to key in on was, okay, we live in this world now where the technologies and the ubiquity of PKI, asymmetric secrets, how we do transactions, our entire human world is dependent on computer systems that are running these cryptographic algorithms. And so when he looks into the future, and don't forget, we didn't even have NIST 2030 line in the sand when he came on.
Yeah.
He basically just said, look, there will be a point in time where due to the difficulties that Boss told us about in implementing cryptographic algorithms. In other words, you can't just retrofit what we have today.
Right? Yep.
That's part of the key part of what he said. Due to the non-ability for us to retrofit easily and the fact that everybody's going to have a land rush at the last moment for PQC, we're going to live in this bizarro world where we might have operational but non-secure systems. Yeah. And it's going to take his words.
For sure. There's going to be a stack ranking exercise where you're going to say, these are the things I can update and I can get this much work done, and it's going to be 7% of the work that has to get done. And what am I going to pick? And that means, what am I going to not pick? And this should be, I hope it turns out to be, brutally pragmatic in its decision making.
Tim, you and I had a podcast recently that we had recorded here in Toronto. The name of the podcast was Microsoft's Certificate Authority Dead? Yeah. Now, that's a provocative title because I know there's a lot of you out there who love your MSCA.
I like a good title. Yeah, go on.
Well, here's the thing. I felt very empowered to put out that episode because of those three guests who gave us a vision of the world. Yeah. And so many of you are living in the trenches of having uptime in your enterprise, and that's what you're paid to do. And yet you're facing this, now we have the NIST draft that says deprecation 2030. Yeah. And you have, a lot of your fundamental authentication systems are going to basically be operational, but working on deprecated algorithms past 2030. And there you go. I think if you combine what Bruno said with a vision of how many MSCA implementations, and I'm just using that as an example, how many other authentication systems are using classic algorithms. But I just choose MSCA because it's just so ubiquitous and a lot of people know about it. And it really has no defined upgrade path to post-quantum. And so therefore, I think there's a lot of you right now who are just on this glide path of the world will never change. IT will be the same after 2030.
Yeah.
No, it won't, Tim.
Won't be. No. And then let's just talk about guests in general. So you and I have struggled with guests, to be frank, right? We love guests. Guests are hard. There's calendar problems. There's production challenges. There's syncing up on what we want to talk about. I think we dialed it in 2024, which is it's going to be a small number, but the ones who are here are really going to be worth it.
Must listen episodes.
Yeah, some of the best ones we produce are our guest episodes because it's the quality of the people we've recruited. And I think for the audience, I think you would agree with me, this is a promise we'll make. We are going to recruit the best quality guests, and if someone's on, there's a good reason. And I don't want to name some names, but we already have some people lined up, coming up that you'll see in the next couple months that are, again, world-class, literally the very best human in the world at the thing they're talking about. And I think that's going to be our theme. I think the quality guests that we've had in the past, certainly we're going to try to have them back, and I hope we'll see all of them back on this show again. And the new quality guests that we have lined up, where we're going to have them on, I hope that they return into repeat guests as well, because these are people who have a perspective and knowledge that is unsurpassed anywhere else.
You won't get it filtered through technical journalism.
Right.
You're not going to get it filtered through a sales pitch.
Yeah.
You're going to hear it directly from those people.
Yeah.
And that's important.
I'm really excited about how we worked out to deal with guests in 2024, and this as a going forward path. I think it adds a lot to this adventure that you and I are going down, and I'm just really excited that we've got some of those people on board.
Stay tuned, folks. You're not going to want to miss those episodes.
All right. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Tim.
This has been Root Causes.